Today we're going to talk about what is Sharp, also see an implementation of Sharp and data collection, then the presentation of the result and the use of the result in the frame of Turkey's ETFs framework. So starting now, looking into what is Sharp. So we're not going to go too much into detail in this part today because we already had a previous study cycle on this topic. So I'm going to share the link of the recording in the chat for the people interested. So SHARP stands for Self-Evaluation and Holistic Assessment of Climate Resilience of Farmer and Pastoralists. So it's a tool that has been developed in 2014 by FAO to assess household climate resilience based on the knowledge and priorities of farming household. So it's an holistic resilience assessment because it is based on the methodology using 13 indicators of resilience. And it covers aspects such as economic aspects, social aspects, but also governance and environmental aspects. So as SHARP is a survey, the data is collected at the household level, usually with the head of the household. And with the information collected, there is an automatic calculation of resilience scores. So we're going to go a bit more into detail in this part later on. And this approach allows to understand the vulnerability factors of the agroecosystem, but also to understand the adaptive capacities and to identify prioritized action to support resilience to climate change, but really focusing on the farming system. So going deeper in the design of the survey, as we can see, based on these 13 resilience indicators, we then have a set of questions that are reported into modules and domains. So looking more into details, we can see here an overview of the SHARP survey. So with the 4 domains. So today we don't have 4 domains anymore because they've been like a slight adaptation. But when it was implemented in Turkey, it was still this version, so with the 4 domains. And each domain has a set of modules. So a module is a part of the survey that focuses on a specific aspect of the agroecosystem. So we can see here, for instance, crop production or weed species and management. And within these modules, we'll have different kind of questions. Some of them are mandatory, but not all of them are always included because SHARP is already quite a long survey as it's holistic. So we try to always use the most relevant modules to make it also efficient. So now looking into the automatic calculation of the scores, each module has 2 components. So first, the technical component, which gather factual information. So external technical indication of resilience. So for example, in the case of the module on crop production, the information here would be on the type of crops that are cultivated, the cropping system, if it's with the intercropping or if it's monoculture. And depending on this question, we'll have some scores that will be then added with the self-assessed adequacy component. So this part of the module focus on the perceived satisfaction with this aspect of the agroecosystem. So for example, if the household is satisfied with the quantity and quality of crop that they produce. So this will give a compound resilience score that is scored out of 20. And depending on the grade, on the score, it will be considered low resilience, medium resilience, or high resilience. And finally, the survey ends with a module that is not scored, but that focuses on the self-assessed importance. So this module asks the household head what is their priority for improving their resilience, and it gives also an idea of the priorities of the farmers.
Is it in the present mode?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Basically, I will start with the project design and the context. This project we called basically in short the Sharp Plus implementation in Türkiye, conducted under as part of a large scale project called TUCSAP. TUCSAP means Türkiye Climate Smart and Competitive Agricultural Growth Project. It is a World Bank loan-funded project. It is like a $340 million nationwide project. TUCSAP aims to promote climate smart, competitive, and resilient agricultural growth in Türkiye. So the idea was that Sharp Plus to serve as a diagnostic tool to assess the climate resilience levels of smallholders and farmers and provide baseline data for the future planning activities of the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry. So our SHARP project aimed to assess the climate resilience at household level across 8 provinces in Türkiye. So the SHARP Plus tool used to localized data to get insight and information from the farmers. So there are basically 5 activities within the project, and I'm going to share the details of the survey implementation. I believe Antoine will share the results and some technical parts from our LTO. Iveta will she'll share that part as well. So basically the project started last year in 2024 June with the training and inception workshop, and then we finalized last May 2025. For the methodology, how we conducted the survey, we used 17 mandatory and 16 optional modules from the Sharp Plus tool. With the four domain Lucille was mentioned while covering all of them. Across 8 different provinces, we reached 1,071 households, and sampling was made through the Farmers Registry system of the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry. 8 provinces was already decided by the ministry, and we just made the sampling and used COBA collect with the tablets used by ministry experts in the field. So basically, social, economic, environmental, and governance resilience evaluated in the field. So when we look at the profile of the implementers, it was carried out FAO Türkiye staff, including me and some other colleagues. We went to all the provinces, and all the field implementation took almost 4 months. We completed the survey in 4 months and reached all the households we aim to reach. The staff from the Ministry of Agriculture, they are mostly technical staff who are mostly agricultural engineers and veterinarians working as a researcher or extension service officers. They received training last year by FAO staff and MOF central staff about the climate change related issues and Sharp Plus implementation in the field as well. So when we look at the field experience, before the field work, a pilot study was conducted in Ankara under the coordination and guidance of the FAO technical staff. Those who received the training implemented the pilot survey in Ankara. After the pilot study, the questions was modified for the last time based on the findings of that pilot implementation and the feedbacks we received from the experts. Following the field work, as I said, we went to each province in 4 months. But before going to the field, we had online meetings with the staff who are going to join us during the implementation. So we basically reshared the project's objectives and research aim, also how to reach participants or the farmers and households. And basically it was a voluntary based participation, and we had great support from the ministry, especially at the district level staff, and also village muhtars. They help to reach the farmers and households. In fact, as in in any other project, we had some challenges because of the seasonal challenges. Sometimes it was a harvest time and we had to cancel or postpone the field work. And due to some cultural issues, it was not always easy to find or access to reach to female or women farmers. In that sense, we really used the help of female workers of the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry. Some of these challenges due to the time and budget availability and restrictions of the project, but we managed to reach to number of surveys. So we can say that these are not the big challenges we encountered. And some challenge also, I can say that the enumerators, they had some problems to implement the survey, especially as a digital tool. But after one or two surveys, they managed to implement it very well and quickly in the field. So in the end, we reached a representative rural sample, I may say. So regarding the findings, as I said, Antoine will share the details. I was not focusing on that part of the project, but my personal observation is that although the score is medium and the resilience score is medium, the awareness is really high among the farmers. I can say that because they face the negative impacts of the climate change, and they already see the results of the changing conditions of the seasons, like the reduced level of groundwater or average rainy days or climate shocks. So they face it in the field. And most of the farmers indicated that personal actions cannot change the situation without overall state policy and intervention. So saying that the government subsidies are stated as the most important tool to tackle the impacts of the climate change and adopt the climate friendly production methods. In conclusion, Sharp Plus enabled us to capture the ground level data that will guide overall project. I said TUCSAP's strategic decisions. The Sharp Plus tool emphasized the participatory and farmer-centered approach and provided the Ministry of Agriculture's key role at the field to receive the information from the farmers to design the policies and the programs. And this model offers a replicable framework for scaling the resilience assessment in other regions of Türkiye. Actually, there is a will from the ministry staff to replicate the survey in a couple of years so that can receive information directly from the farmers, because the tool is very helpful and designed very well. Although there were some complainings from the compulsory models and the questions, and we managed to handle this issue while in dialogue with the ministry staff and farmers at the field. So as stated in the beginning, Sharp Plus served as a diagnostic tool to assess the climate resilience levels of smallholder farmers and provide a baseline data for the future planning and policy support. So this may help Ministry of Agriculture while enhancing the implementation of the agricultural production planning, which is started this year, and the new support model subsidizing the agricultural production in the country. So adapting country and the agricultural production in the climate condition, changing climate conditions, Sharp Plus tool helped really well, I might say, from the findings of the study, and hopefully this will help the future planning of the country's policies. So this is all from me for now. So if you have any questions, and so that I can try to address. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ali. So now we'll present the results. I'm going to share my screen. So the objective of this study was first to assess the climate resilience of rural households in 8 provinces in Türkiye. So in alignment with the 12th National Development Plan and also the Enhanced Transparency Framework, the ETF, of the Paris Agreement. Also to identify the strengths and weaknesses of farmers by exploring inter and intra-provincial patterns, to address the diversity and heterogeneity of farming systems by developing a farm typology, which I'm going to present a bit later, and also to establish a baseline for future evaluations to monitor changes in resilience over time, and also to assess the effectiveness of interventions in the frame of this program. So regarding the results, this is the overall resilience, where you can see the scores per domain. So our 4 domains. We can see that the lowest scores come from the governance domain with 6.2 out of 20. So you can see that it falls under the red range here. So with a low resilience, you see the lowest resilience. Then it's followed by the environmental domain, which is at 9.8 out of 20. So within the medium resilience range. Then the social domain, and the highest scores comes from the economical domain with 11.5. So it's still a medium resilience, but close to a high resilience. And now we can break down these scores by modules. So you can see all the modules encompassed in every domains here. So the social domain, for example, we can see that the highest scores come from the nutrition with 13.1, the decision making at the household level. Also the community cooperation is high resilience, and also the household characteristics. Whereas the main vulnerability of this domain comes from the group membership with a very low involvement in agricultural predator organizations, for example. Regarding the environmental domain, you can see that we have a high score for the land management practices, but a very low score for the 3 modules, and also a low score of 8.2 for the shocks. So I'm going to present these in detail later. And finally, the economical domain, there is a big difference between the access to market and the income sources and expenditures, which are rather low. And the farm input access is the highest, at the highest scores of all modules. And governance, as I said, it's 6.2 point out of 20, so also very low score. So now I'm going to present you only the environmental domain in this presentation to keep it short. So as I said, the main vulnerabilities from this domain comes from the 3 modules. And if we want to understand why this score, we can look here at the technical score. So this is the blue line here. For all the 8 provinces, you can see the scores. So this technical score is very low. And you have the adequacy score here in red, which is a bit higher than the technical score. But here the adequacy score is only for the farmers who have trees on their farmland or access to forest. And we have more insight here into understanding why this score is so low. It's because we have 62% of farms that do not have trees on their agricultural land. You can see here the detail here by province on this graph, with, for example, the highest absence of trees in Sanliurfa and Konya here. And also 94% of the respondents do not have access to nearby forest, which also decreases this score. And for the farms that have access to trees, Most trees on farms are few and scattered, so they do not provide the full benefits to the agroecosystems. There's also low tree diversity and decreases in tree diversity and quantity. Here, this is the respondent's satisfaction on the benefits provided by the tree and the tree products accessed. So this is used to calculate the adequacy score. And this is only for farmers who have trees, like I said earlier. And here we can see that among these households, we have a low satisfaction regarding the benefits provided by the tree and tree products for most of the respondents. And we have a maximum dissatisfaction for Kirkcalary, where 80% are not satisfied and only 20% are declared being satisfied with these benefits. So now following the module on the shocks, so climatic and non-climatic shocks, we have a score of 8.2 out of 20, which is considered a medium resilience. We can see, for example, that in Erzurum, we have the lowest score, especially for the technical score. And this is explained mainly because almost 80% of households were impacted by climatic shocks within the last 3 years, mainly by droughts for 44.5% of the households. We can see there is more droughts, for example, in Kirkcalary, Konya, and Ankara, which with around 60%. We also have 31% of farmers that have been impacted by floods, especially in Samsun and Sanliurfa, and 27% that were impacted by extreme heat, especially in Mersin and Izmir. And the main impacts of these shocks were for 82% a loss of productivity. For nearly 80%, they had also crop failure, and 30% declare also have decrease in income linked to these shocks. And yet, 80% of households did not engage in any coping strategy to manage the effect of these shocks. And only 7% used different water management practices. 6.6% shifted from livestock to crop production. 5% they changed their crop varieties or animal breeds. 5% used different land management practices, and 2% engaged in non-farming employment. So now I'm going to present you a farm typology that we developed within this project. I'm going to give you an overview of this typology by giving you the farm type characteristic and their resilience level, and also their geographical repartition within these 8 provinces. But why is it interesting to build farm typologies? We know that given the extensive heterogeneity of farming forms in the world and in Turkey, general policy prescriptions are unlikely to be useful or appropriate to all farmers. And in this regard, it's important to create public policies and investment strategies which are tailored to different forms of farming by taking into account their different needs, assets, and constraints. So this is why the World Agriculture Watch, which is an international initiative hosted by FAO, offers an harmonized approach to examine, analyze, and monitor agricultural transformation around the world, also to identify patterns and drivers of change of these transformations, and to create tools to help tailoring public policies and investment strategies in the frame of the adaptation and mitigation of climate change, the agroecological transformation, and the social inclusion. And this tool can be helpful for at different levels, from investment projects, NGOs, government organizations, and also for farmers. So this typology can serve to create an initial assessment of the farm diversity. So by creating these categories of farms in terms of structures and functioning, and by doing descriptive analysis of the farm types, assets, practices, and household living conditions, and also to find assets and practices as drivers of better performances and resilience. And also this typology can be used for monitoring, to track the evolution of farming structures and practices over time, also to monitor the project impact on farming system, household livelihoods, and resilience, and to identify drivers and patterns of agricultural transformation. So quickly regarding the methodology to build this typology, it's a combination of a statistical approach with an expert approach. Within the statistical approach, we use multifactorial analysis to identify the most discriminating variable to create these groups of farms. Then we do a hierarchical ascending classification to create the statistical typology and have a group of farms that are homogeneous within the group, but statistically different from other groups of farm. And then we revise this typology by creating criteria and that is more useful or comprehensive to use on the field. And then we can analyze for each type simultaneously the farm structures, the practices, and looking at the agronomic, economic, and environmental performances and their resilience level. So in the context of Turkey, we take by taking the total number of farms here, and the multifactorial analysis explain that there is a difference linked to the size, and we identified that 13% of the sample were considered very large farms compared to the rest. They're above 40 hectares, and they have very different characteristics from the others. So they were put aside, and they are the type 6 here. Then for the rest of the farms, which are small or medium farms under 40 hectares, the presence of livestock was also very important in discriminating these farms, where we have farms that are oriented toward livestock with very large herds, with more than 10 tropical livestock units. So very large herds, compared to the other ones which have either small livestock or no livestock at all. And this farm can be also differentiated by looking at their specialization of crop cultivation, with some farms that are very specialized in 1 or 2 crops. So they are the type 1 and 2, whereas the type 3 and 4 are more diversified farms with at least more than 3 crops. And the last criteria to differentiate these farms is the economical diversification, with some farms that only have 1 source of income, so mainly linked to agriculture. So type 1 and type 3, and the type 2 and 4 have more than 1 source of income, so often coming from retirement pension or other jobs outside of agriculture. So now looking at the farm types characteristics, if we start by the type 1, which are small specialized farms with low non-farming incomes, which represent 18% of the total, we can see that they are small. They have 70 daycares, so 7 hectares in average. They have low non-farming incomes and also low employment outside agriculture. 81% of them are focused on crop production, and 14% have also livestock and have a very low total crop diversity, with an average of 1.1 crop per farm. Mostly wheat. 24% are specialized only on wheat, and 30% are specialized on permanent crops, mainly hazelnut and pistachio. And now for these farm types, we can look at their resilience level across the 3 different domains. So social domains, we can see that they have the lowest resilience. So here you can see in brown, 10.3 for the social domain. They have the lowest resilience, particularly lowered by the specialization in 1 farm activity. They also have the lowest nutrition score and possibility to stock food. Regarding the environmental domain, they also have the lowest resilience because of the very low diversity of crops, species, and varieties. Also, they have few sources for seed procurement and the lowest rate of action taken to keep and improve soil fertility, so like agroecological practices, and weak access to seeds. They also have a very low score in the economical domain, 10.7, because of the lack of income diversity. They only have 1 source of income, and they also have the lowest ability to save money. As you can see here on the graph on the left, only 17% of them declare being able to save money after expenditures. And as you can see, this is the lowest level compared to the other types. For the type 2, so they also are small specialized farms, but they have non-farming incomes. As you can see here, 88% of the farmers have non-farming incomes, mainly coming from retirement pensions. As you can see, the household age is in average 58 years old. So they're the oldest ones. So this is why they also receive the retirement pensions. And so they have crop production for 84% of them, a bit more of livestock, 25%, and still a very low crop diversity, with again a specialization on wheat and permanent crops. So for the social domain, we have a slightly better resilience compared to the type 1 and 3 because of the highest score in decision making at the household level. But there is also this is rather low because of the agricultural production activities which are linked to the specialization of the farms. Regarding the environmental domain, we have a slightly higher resilience regarding the animal production because there is a higher involvement in livestock activities, but the same shortcomings as the type 1 in terms of crop production, and they exhibit the highest score for the three modules because they have the highest share of permanent crops. And for the economical domain, they have the highest score compared to type 1 and 3 because of these additional incomes linked to the retirement pensions or other jobs. And they also have a rather low ability to save money after expenditures, 20%. Regarding the type 3, this time they are medium farms and diversified farms. So medium, you can see here that they have in average 18 hectares. Also very focused on crop production, 96%, and 20% have also livestock production. And you can see here the big difference is linked to the crop diversity with 4.1 in average, with 90% of them who cultivate wheat, there's barley, corn grain, sunflower, and 50% have horticulture, and 20% have permanent crops. And we can see that the impact of this diversification is mainly visible in the environmental domain, which have a higher score than the type 1, which is attributed to the better crop production practices and this crop diversity. Also, there is more frequent action to add value, process, and maintain high value of the products. In the social domain, there is a slightly higher resilience than type 1 and 2, linked to the land access, where there is a more important share of rented land. So this is why also they have larger cultivated surfaces, but they still have a very low score for the economical domain because of the lack of revenues. They only have agricultural revenues. For the type 4, this is also medium farms, diversified, but this time they have non-farming incomes in addition. And we can see that this economical diversification enhances the economical domain here, where they have the highest resilience in this domain compared to the type 1 and 3. Regarding the social domain, there is also a slightly higher resilience than the previous types, thanks to a higher access to information, and also they have less specialized system than type 1 and 3. And we can see that they have also a higher ability to save money, 28%. The type 5, they're also medium farms, but this time they are livestock oriented with big herds. We can see that 100% of these farmers have livestock and a total crop diversity of almost 3. And these farms have a higher resilience than the 4 previous types in the 3 domains because of a higher share of commercialization towards local markets and also a better access to information. They also, in the environmental domain, have a higher score because of a higher crop diversity, but especially because of the integration of crop and livestock system, especially reflected in the manure management. And there is a reduced use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. And so in the economical domain, they also have a better, higher scores. And we can see that 32% of them are able to save money after expenditures. Our last type is the type 6. They're large farms, very large, more than 100 hectares. So larger than the previous types. And they also are very diversified with 4.4 crops in average. And they are the one with the highest resilience. Within the 3 domains, they have the highest resilience. In the social domain, because There is a better access to agricultural lands, also a high ownership of the lands, and the highest access to information on sustainable practices, for example. And also they have better community cooperation mechanisms, and they belong to more community groups for input provisions and improved link to markets. They also have the higher score in the environmental domain because of a greater engagement in agricultural practices, and also the highest score in the economical domain. We can see that 43% of them can save money after expenditures, which is the highest rate. Here on this map, you can see the repartition of these types within the different provinces. And it's interesting to look at the patterns. For example, in the regions here in Sanliurfa and Mersin, we have a majority of type 1 and 2, which are very specialized farms and also the most vulnerable to climate change. Whereas, for example, in Killarney and Ankara, we have a majority of the type 6, so very large farm and more resilient. And in Izmir and Konya, we have a very high share of the livestock, the large livestock-oriented farms. So in conclusion, we drafted some recommendations based on this work. So to promote crop diversification by expanding the variety of crops, so especially for the type 1 and 2, which are very specialized. Also to encourage intercropping and agroforestry. Again, particularly for the type 1 and 2, which already have the presence of permanent crops. Also to promote mixed farming systems for the farms who already have livestock, so like the type 4, 5, and 6, to further improve the integration between animal and cropping system, and also to promote the income diversification, especially for the type 1 and 3, who only have one income. Also to enhance the soil and water management through agroecological practices, so through sustainable land management and water management. And finally, to strengthen the market access through organized market strategies to support the formation of cooperative and market linkages to improve product commercialization, especially for the type 1 and 2, who have the lowest linked with market, and to expand the organized market participation for the largest farm, so the types 4, 5, and 6. And finally, to access also by with the access to input, to facilitate access to high quality seeds and inputs through community seed banks and cooperative, particularly for the type 1 and 2. Thank you very much. Now we let Eveta talk about the uptake of these results.
Thank you so much, Anton. Let me share my screen. So first of all, thank you so much. I would like to thank my team. I mean our team, because it was a great project, and we got support from HQ, from country office, from the government. It went very smooth, and then the validation workshop showed that it was actually a big interest and use of this testing of the tool for the government. But obviously, whenever we do something in the region related to climate change data and analysis, we try to see the bigger picture, and the biggest pictures for all the countries that ratified Paris Agreement, of course, will be the reporting under the Paris Agreement. And we know now that there is a transitioning from MRV to ETF, Enhanced Transparency Framework, and that is why there are some changes in the reporting for the countries that ratified Paris Agreement. So last year they submitted biennial transparency report, and we wanted to see how the results and analysis of Sharp Plus can be beneficial for this report. So either for the national communications or for the new BTRs on the ETF process, and of course how it is relevant for national determined contributions. So as you know that like if you talk about BTR, that there are some sections for the reporting that include national inventory reports, progress towards NDCs, policies and measures, climate change impact and adaptation, financial, technology, and capacity building support level, and capacity building needs. So in the region, we analyzed in SEC region, we analyzed the main, let's say, measures indicated in NDC in the among the countries, and then obviously that countries are mostly agrarian, so the adaptation measures they are related to sustainable and resilient agri-food systems. If we talk about Turkey particular, then in NDC we can see the adaptation policies that are focusing on droughts, and the survey showed us, and Antoine presented the droughts were a big part of the answers among the farmers. So there is no surprise that NDC is focusing on droughts, and then of course different related measures, yeah, either institutional or technological or a financial one. If you talk about the long-term strategies that Turkey has, so for the adaptation targets, they also have the focus on the restoration or, like, let's say, preservation of agricultural land and pastures, and then organic farming, no-till farming. So basically focus on land and water management. So in this result, how SHARP Plus can contribute to the reports that I mentioned. We know that there is a section B about impacts, risks, and vulnerabilities, where the countries describe the potential and observed impact of climate change. In this sense, obviously, SHARP Plus can provide the information on the resilient levels. But of course, the information should be not scattered, let's say, how did we do for testing, because we did some statistical analysis, how many households we need to interview, but it doesn't show obviously the whole situation. But if the government will be interested, of course, we can provide or they can provide more information, and it can be used later by the Ministry of Statistics and the relevant ministries. Then another ETF component, let's say, chapter is adaptation priorities and barriers. And here SHARP Plus can also provide the information on the current actions, current support measures, and then on the management of the resources. And finally, there is also another chapter on monitoring and evaluation of adaptation actions process. And here we can see also after Antoine presentation that, for example, if we do the spot check, then we can, spot check in two time zones, like, for example, to do this survey in 2025, and then 5 years later, we can see how changed the resilience scores, basically checking if some measures or policies that were introduced to this at this time or during this time, if they had some beneficial effect on farmers and their resilience. So I think that is it from my side, because we also don't have that much time. And yeah, thank you so much, and thanks everybody again. We would love to answer your questions.